Hello, everyone. It's so great to have you with us. Welcome to today's installment of Meet the Council. This edition of Meet the Council is one of our many events for Pride Month, and it's part of our larger year-round initiative to strengthen and support the LGBTQI community in the foreign policy and national security spaces. My name is Damon Wilson, and I'm the Executive Vice President here at the Atlanta Council. I'm also a proud member of the LGBTQI community, and I'm honored to help lead an institution that puts diversity front and center. Meet the Council is an event series hosted by the Atlanta Council's Office of Human Resources and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council to promote the work and opportunities of our organization. And I want to give a shout out to those remarkable teams and their team members. These events focus on engaging historically marginalized groups in the Council's work as the Atlanta Council works to build a staff and a broader foreign affairs community that better reflect the diversifying of our nation and our world. And the Atlanta Council is making great progress. We publish our diversity statistics on our website, and our LGBTQI representation among staff is significantly greater than among the US population. And we can't say that about all our demographics, so we have work to do. But it underscores the importance of representation and visibility. And that is why I am here this evening, along with my fantastic colleagues. So in a moment, we'll introduce today's panelists who will have the opportunity to share their personal experiences, their career paths, and to answer your questions. So for those new to us, you might be thinking, my grandmother always asks, what is a think tank? And what do they actually do at the Atlanta Council? So the Atlanta Council is an international affairs, nonprofit institution committed to shaping a better global future. It's more than just a think tank. We are in the business of ideas. We are actors, not just observers. And we are a community. This year marks the 60th anniversary of our founding. And in that time, we have grown to work on a variety of issues that are most important to the challenges of the day. However, in all of our work, our mission has remained constant, working alongside friends and allies to shape the global future together. So last spring, we launched our first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council as part of our commitment to strengthening a culture that celebrates diversity, that strives for equity, and breaks down barriers in pursuit of inclusion. We believe that only an organization that reflects the world around it and that acknowledges historical inequities, structures, and biases that perpetuate them can work to dismantle these barriers to progress. And in doing so, help shape a better, more just global future. So our mission is global, but our work begins at home. The Meet the Council series is part of that effort to reach out to diverse communities and introduce them to the work and culture of the Atlanta Council. So let me share first, when I began my career, this was not the approach of the US government. I came to Washington when telling the truth about who you loved could disqualify you for a security clearance. I watched as a young officer as the US Senate blocked James Hormel, the first openly gay nominated ambassador, from confirmation. And he went to post thanks only to a recess appointment. As an intern at the White House National Security Council, I was still in the closet. But from day one at the State Department, I served openly. I became active with GLIFA. I worked to end the White House practice of limiting Oval Office photos with the president, only to married spouses when I went back to the NSC. Yes, things have changed. They have changed dramatically for the better. Just last week here at the Atlanta Council, we hosted Secretary of State Tony Blinken for Pride, in a remarkable conversation. This Wednesday, I'm moderating. I've been invited to moderate at the White House NSC Pride event. I am proud that the Council is at the forefront. We convene out leaders across the national security space, from our LGBT Advisory Council to hosting all of the out prime ministers. We cultivate a pipeline of talent to help LGBTI professionals in foreign affairs thrive in their careers. And we help mainstream LGBTI issues as part of our discussion of foreign policy and democracy and human rights. So we are just getting started. Thank you for joining us this evening for this important conversation. With that, I want to turn this over to Vicente Garcia. He is our moderator for today's conversation. But more importantly, Vicente is the driving force behind our work and someone who I am so proud to count as a friend and colleague. As I prepare to head to the National Endowment for Democracy, I'm looking to Vicente and our colleagues who are with us today on screen and those of you watching who are going to join our team to carry that torch forward. So for this evening, please use the hashtag Stronger with Allies, which is an Atlanta Council motto so appropriate for tonight. Vicente, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Damon, for that introduction and sharing that personal story. And happy Pride for all of you joining today. I've been really looking forward to this conversation, not only because I get to share some insight on the Atlanta Council, but I also get to spotlight some incredible LGBTQI staff who work in different parts of the council. You get to hear directly from them and be able to pose your questions. But first, I want to tell you a little bit more about the Atlanta Council. If you, as Damon mentioned, if you'd like to engage in the conversation, please use the hashtag #StrongWithAllies. Or if you're on Zoom and you'd like to ask a question, you can use the Q&A function. Now, as Damon mentioned, the Atlanta Council, we're a foreign policy think tank, which means we produce reports that inform solutions-oriented policy outcomes. We host everything from roundtables to large-scale convenings to connect decision makers and analyze the world around us while advocating for constructive youth engagement. According to the University of Pennsylvania annual survey, we were one of the top 50 think tanks in the world in 2020. And in the top 10 of the 2020 rankings for foreign policy and international affairs think tanks, and in the top 10 think tanks to watch in 2020. I joined the council in 2012, and I've had an incredible network of colleagues supportive of the LGBTQI community throughout my time here. And with Damon as a mentor, he supported me and other staff as we developed our programming around LGBTQI affairs. And as he mentioned, we started the LGBTQI Advisory Council, consisting of out U.S. ambassadors and other former senior officials who identify as LGBTQI. And through their support, we launched the first ever fellowship for mid-career LGBTQI professionals in the foreign affairs and national security communities. This year, our Global Energy Center launched out an energy network targeting the community in the energy and climate fields. So I'm really proud of all the progress that we've made as a community within the Atlanta Council and the change that we're trying to do beyond. So fortunately, we have 14 programs and centers with whom we can organize and coordinate events and projects at the intersection of foreign policy and LGBTI affairs. Recently, we hosted Secretary Blinken, as Damon was mentioning, for a Pride event. Last fall, we hosted then Mayor Pete, now Secretary Pete, and we've hosted 3 out prime ministers for Pride last year. And of course, we host a number of different, not only just speakers, but a number of different pieces and written pieces that we encourage for you to check out. Everything from recently publishing a piece on protecting the world's trans population, and particularly with through political representation, to an article on Ukraine and how to address the homophobia that exists there. And there's a clear need for visibility and engagement for the LGBTQI community in the world of foreign affairs and national security so that we have a seat at the table. And I really hope that this event, we can encourage more involvement and attract a diverse group of people that reflects our global community. I'd now like to introduce our speakers for today. I'll moderate a conversation with them so you can learn about them and the council more, but please submit your questions for them to respond as well. I'll go through the questions as time permits. And as I mentioned, please use the hashtag #StrongerWithAllies to engage, or if you're on Zoom, use the Q&A function. We'll also include some links in the chat box for more information on how to engage with the council. So with us today, we have 4 speakers. We have Zachary Strauss, Assistant Director in our Global Energy Center. We have Adrian Hofer, Program Assistant in the Eurasia Center. Bridget Cornum, Assistant Director of Digital Engagement. And Caddy Cesare, Director of Global Human Resources and Talent Development. Caddy, Bridget, Adrian, Zach, thank you so much for joining this discussion today. Along with Damon, I feel so fortunate to have such a great LGBTQI family at the council. So I'd like to publicly thank you all for that you do. So I'd like to start off this conversation with a big picture question. We look around the foreign policy and national security community, and we don't see a lot of members of the LGBTQI community in leadership roles. And frankly, we don't see a lot in other roles either. Of course, there are various reasons for that, but an important one is to increase LGBTQI engagement at all levels is through visibility. So, with question for you all, the speakers, why is it important? Why is this important? Why is representation so important to you? What are some of your observations when you're looking around in our foreign policy and national security community? And Zach, I think I'll turn to you first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zachary Strauss. I'm an assistant director at the Global Energy Center, and thanks so much for having me here today. My preferred gender pronouns are he, him, and I identify as bisexual or queer. And as Damon mentioned, I think a lot about, in reference to your question, about the Lavender Scare, about the 40 years of systemic persecution and discrimination by the federal government of LGBTQI people in the State Department, in the Foreign Service, and barring them from holding security clearance or outing them and removing them from the service. Think about that gap that was created over that, the last half of the 20th century, and how we're having to shore up that gap and bring people into the pipeline and bring them into positions of authority and positions of agency. And it's really hard to think that you can be something you've never seen it happen before. It's really hard for heterosexual people to think that two men could raise a child until they had seen it before. It requires people to be able to see before they can believe it's possible. And I think putting more people in the room around the table who are LGBTQI, who are out, who are proud, to give people hope and give people a vector of possibility, especially for me. I'm a young professional. I'm in my 20s thinking about what I can be in my future. Can I be out while serving in the Central African Republic? Can I be out working in this main state here in DC or working at the Atlantic Council? It helps to have role models. It helps to have people who are able to show you and support you and provide you with an opportunity to shine and to be yourself and to bring your authentic self to work. And I'm fortunate here at the Atlantic Council to be able to do that. But in terms of visibility, it really just requires a world and a community that demonstrates that you belong, that you are equal, and that you have every right to thrive in your professional career as anyone else does.
And Adrian, if I could turn to you, particularly in your region of where you work in Eurasia, sometimes could be some very hostile environments towards the LGBTQI community. Why has this been so important to you?
I think visibility matters in the sense that people in Ukraine or in Russia or elsewhere need to see that it is okay to live out proud, and to see that there is a better future for them, and to see that there's something that they can strive for. If you're in Russia, for example, a gay person there will find it very hard to find any kind of media, any kind of information about who they are, and affirming that they are okay and that they are allowed to be who they are. So it's important to, at least from my perspective, to present it, to be a beacon, to be somebody who lives out, who lives proud, so that they can hopefully find their way to an example that they see themselves in, and to just reiterate, be more secure in themselves, and instead of going down a dark path of hiding themselves or committing suicide or doing something really drastic to try to find their way through. And not only that, but try to lift other people around them, because it's usually they usually find a small community for themselves, and so it's good to know that there's somebody out there for fighting for you.
Thanks, Adrian. And Bridget, let's turn to you.
Thanks, Vicente. Yeah, I can say as a woman in national security, I'm constantly attending panels that is talking about, why it's important to, support other women in national security and to amplify those voices as well. And I can tell you that has made such a big impact on my life and has made me feel more welcome in that community and allowed me to know that I can walk into a room and not have to put in all of that work and not have to introduce myself and introduce, what being a woman in national security means. So that representation is also so important, so that, like, not only am I going to have to go and commit myself to this really intense job, while additionally being the LGBTQIA representation in this room, and while putting in all this work to, pave the way, I know that there's also someone there that is supporting me. So I think representation is so important, just to know that you're not going to have to do it all alone, and there will be someone, there will be people around you putting in that fight as well.
And Kathy, if I could turn to you, particularly you have such as an HR professional, I'm sure you could have seen, as Damon was mentioning, a little bit of the changes over the years. If you talk a little bit about that, but then also, yeah, your overall observation of being in this global space that you had such a long career in.
Thanks, Vicente. Interesting because you just stated it. The world is changing and it's changing at warp speed. That's the way I feel. So specifically amidst the pandemic, I think the pandemic really made us take a step back to evaluate what's happening in our individual personal worlds as well as our professional worlds too. So right now we're in a position where we can all be change agents. I'm a woman of color. I am a member of the LGBTQI community, and I'm proud to be a part of all categories. And I think that's where we're at right now, just to be proud of who we are, recognizing that we're here to represent the global communities that we support, not just our individual personalized communities or relationships within our cohort groups. So in the field of HR, what I've really seen shifting is a more direct approach towards inclusivity. That hasn't always been the case over the past couple of years. Diversity now is more so at the forefront, and we're looking to touch all areas of diversity. So not just bringing more people of color into organizations, but also representation within the LGBTQI communities. And we're driving that action forward through metrics being implemented in our recruitment process, inclusivity metrics being a part of our performance management process. Ultimately, what we want is for everyone to feel like they're able to bring their whole selves to work each and every day. And we need that through the representations of the individuals and key stakeholders that we have in key positions within our organization. So definitely here at the Atlantic Council, that's what we strive to do. We strive to reflect the communities that we support. And so I've just really been blessed to be a part of this Atlantic Council team, and just a part of the missions that we're driving forward and the actions that we're pushing through. So yeah, I'm just really excited about the movements that we're putting into play right now.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's such a good way of framing all of this as a sense of optimism. We give you hope. You know, you're going in the right direction. And I love the how you point out the intersectionality of things. Of if you're a person of color, your identity, whatever you're bringing to that table is at least enough the Atlanta Council's perspective. That's added value to that conversation, and you better reflect the global community that we are. So yeah, thank you for all that. So now I think I want to turn a little bit, talk a little bit about the Atlanta Council. Because the four of you, I'm pretty sure you could work wherever you like. Such incredible backgrounds. But I want to hear, like, why the Atlanta Council? Why did you choose the Atlanta Council? What is it? How is it different from other organizations? And I think, Adrian, I'll start with you to kind of hear your thoughts. Like, what makes you excited to work at the council?
So I decided to work here while I was still at the EU. I was a temporary assistant at the delegation to the United States, and I knew that was ending. I knew I had to go somewhere else. And the Atlantic Council was, I think, one of the first, if not the first place I applied. I used its research throughout my time in college. I in fact read Anders Aslund, a couple of his things, and I work with him, although he's unfortunately retiring. But so the Atlantic Council was front of mind for me for 4 years before I applied, and I think I even tried getting an internship, and I'm just so happy to have gotten the job. But when I first got here, what makes me excited to stay is not only the work we do, not only the human rights that we advocate for, not only the transatlantic policies we advocate for, but the fact that one of the first things that happened that week was I met a very out and proud member of the LGBTI community that I worked with, and then found out about the LGBTI initiative at the council, and really felt immediately welcomed in a sense that I couldn't just bring my professional self to the office, but I could also bring myself, really myself to the office. Damon's representation mattered a lot. I got to meet him within the first 2 weeks as part of his policy to meet new staffers, which I felt incredibly welcoming to. And so it just made me feel like it was a place that I could feel at home and stay and really try to build my the start of my career out.
Thanks for sharing that. Bridget, if I can turn to you, you've really led our social media strategy at the Atlantic Council and in so many different areas. And so I'm sure you're in high demand. And we're fortunate to have you as part of the Atlantic Council family. What makes you excited to work with the council?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful to work at the Atlantic Council, not only because of the work we do and the impact that we make in the global community, but also just the people we work with. I feel so lucky to not only care about the content, but I also care about every single person I work with and know that they are, the people that I'm in the bunker with, the people that we are working long hours with, the people that we are traveling with and working on all these events with. It's knowing that you can be yourself in an environment that you do have to spend a lot of time in. I started working with the Atlantic Council when I was an intern at another organization when we worked on NATO Engages together. And I was just so impressed by the staff. Everyone was so serious and so, put together when working, but they also were just able to let go and have fun and enjoy each other's company. And I think that is so important when you work in a high stress environment. And I also saw right when I was applying for this job, it was Pride Month in June of 2019, and I saw how much the editorial team was doing on Pride Month for the Atlantic Council, and they were putting out content on LGBT rights around the world, and there were several stories, and I could just see that this was a place that really was committed to the values that it says they're committed to.
And yeah, I think you touched on two things that's been really important for me that makes me excited with the council. It's the marriage of people with passion and just the colleagues and the colleagues who come with such incredible skills that the marriage of all that together, it's fun, it's motivating, it's exciting. It's something I really appreciated when working at the council. And Zach, I want to turn to you because Bridget was just talking about being in the bunkers and working very closely with folks, and most recently had the opportunity to work with you to produce last week's events with Secretary Blinken. So it's been great that the Atlantic Council, we're able to work across programs and centers and different departments all the time, which makes it always fun and dynamic as well. So yeah, I turn off to you, Zach, what makes you excited to work at the council?
So I joined the council in 2019, actually right before Pride Month in April, and I came working in migration. I'd worked in energy before, but I was really excited at the fact that they had such a broad array of programs and centers, and they really touched on so many different things. And I had the opportunity to work on global decarbonization and climate action and advanced energy, and being able to really bring my interest and passion into that work, but then also subsequently getting to work on LGBTQI rights and investing in other forms of passion that I have for other aspects of my life. That first June, I was the MC of our Pride event here at the council, and I was really just thrust into that world, and it was able to meet a bunch of really exciting and diverse group of people who really cared about LGBTQI rights. I've been given the opportunity here to actually start my own outer energy network through the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center, where we have the first national community professional network ever created for visibility for LGBTQI rights and energy and climate, and being given the green light, the support, the solidarity with my team and the council with Damon to really go ahead and do that and to build something that's lasting and sustainable has been really exciting. And I'm really excited to be able to continue to work on that with my team here at the council.
Yeah. And extra kudos to you on that, Zach, because one, that would not exist without you, and two, you driving it forward is just really a testament to you and your commitment to it also. Thank you for that. Kathy, I'm going to turn to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on why the Atlantic Council.
Yeah, so I think I have a unique perspective here. So my exposure to the Atlantic Council came randomly, actually. This is my first experience with a think tank, so I didn't really know what to expect. But to be honest with you, I am super happy, and obviously so, I'm still here. One of the things that I always look for when I'm entertaining new options for new opportunities is the environment. It's one thing to be recruited and told what the culture is at an organization, but it's a different thing to experience the culture and to see differences in behaviors that are different from the behaviors from previous organizations that you've worked with that didn't pair up with your values, or in this case, my values. And so when I came to the council, one of the main things that I was looking for was transparency, honesty around the things that we're not doing so well at, and the actions that we're taking in order to make those areas of opportunities wins. And I quickly saw that. I saw that in the colleagues that we work with. I saw that in the work that we're doing. I saw that in the representation of the individuals that are driving the work. And I think that really is what sets us apart from other organizations, specifically those within the think tank space, is the fact that we put action behind our words. We recognize that we don't always get it right, but we acknowledge where we're getting it wrong, and then we work to make those wrongs right. So yeah, I really think that that pairs up with sustainability too. When you think about the talent pipeline, when you think about retaining high performers, one of the main things that we need to really consider is how do we allow people, again, to bring their whole selves to work, so that way they can feel like they're authentic and they're not having to code switch, because that really is a thing that a lot of people have to do. And how do we allow and create space for people to build out the culture of the organization? I think sometimes culture, or the terminology of culture, gets a bad rap. It can sometimes have a negative undertone or a negative connotation, in the sense that, okay, well, is the culture a white male patriarchal culture, which is typically that of a lot of organizations, specifically those like in the federal contracting space. But one of the things that drives our culture forward is the fact that we want to ensure that there's representation on all sides. So diversity as it relates to the work that we do, the people that we engage, the people that are a part of our teams, and again, overall, the bodies of work. So seeing that reflected in the council when I first arrived, and seeing that still perpetuated throughout till today, is really what brought me here and keeps me here and keeps me doing the work that I'm doing. And I'm sure it keeps us all doing the work that we're doing.
Absolutely. And one thing that you touched on when it comes to Atlanta Council culture, our Atlanta Council President CEO, Fred Kemp, is always emphasizing that we are a learning culture. And that's one thing I've really valued. It could be very much embody that. And one perfect example is what Damon was mentioning during the introduction. This past summer, we launched a Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Council to address all the issues internally, externally, to be proactive, to react, but also be proactive on how to make this better and how to be more inclusive, and to grow our culture and go make sure we're going in the right direction. So because we recognize that, yeah, we are a learning culture, and we will evolve in a number of different ways. And so I love that part about our culture, in addition to everything that you were mentioning. So now I want to turn to a question on those that are interested in working at the council. So there's a rising generation that's stepping into the workforce, and perhaps other LGBTQI professionals that are interested in joining the council and working for the council. So I would love for each of you to share a little bit more about your personal experience, how you got your start here, what's the day in a regular day for you look like at the office or virtually. So I want to hear a little bit more about you, and perhaps share a little bit about what you look for in a candidate when you're interviewing them, for whether it be for an intern or a full-time employee. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. So Bridget, I guess I'll turn to you first. If you can share a little bit more about what does a day in the life of Bridget look like, and what would you recommend, or what do you look for in a candidate when you're interviewing someone for the council?
Sure. One of the most exciting parts about my job would be that there really is no typical day. Working in the central comms team, it's just pretty much supporting all of the 14 centers that we have at the Atlantic Council, plus its overarching mission. So it really is just bouncing between, 1 minute something's happening with Ukraine and I'm working with Adrian, and then the next minute, something's happening in the Energy Center and I'm working with Zach. So it is a really exciting role where I get to work with all of our various centers and pretty much everyone at the council, which is what I love about it, is that I get to, learn about all of the different areas that we cover and meet all the different people. So there's really very little that is standard in my day except for going on social media at some point, tweeting, monitoring. But when I'm looking for a candidate, I think the main things that I'm looking for are adaptability, someone who can jump into really any situation and um, be able to navigate that. It can be kind of like cross-cultural communications, code switching, or just knowledge of different regions. Being able to have a solid overarching knowledge of any of the different policy areas that the Atlantic Council covers. Looking for someone who's a team player. It is something where we're constantly working on different events and different issue areas for all the different centers at the Atlantic Council. So being able to jump in on different projects and be a team player is very important. And somebody who is creative and passionate about the different issue areas and is able to get excited about really anything that the Atlantic Council is working on and is able to communicate that and share it in a creative and unique way.
Right. And Zach, if I can turn to you a little bit about your background and how you got started at the council and what you look for in a candidate.
Yeah, thanks so much again. So my background, I came to the Atlantic Council actually from working in migration. I had previously lived abroad for 4 years in Japan, France, and Spain, working at the OECD, working with the Japanese government, coming back to the US and jumping into energy. I'm from Houston, really going back to something that I've been passionate about, something that I had grown up on. My day-to-day, I work a lot on climate and advanced energy. I also help run a program for veterans in advanced energy, like similar to what we do for LGBTQI people. We also help veterans as well as women. We have a Women Leaders in Energy Fellowship as well. I help run a lot of our internship program. I also recruit and manage our internship program, so I can talk a little bit more what I look for in a candidate when I'm looking at an intern. But again, there's no day-to-day. I wear a lot of hats. I'm either writing a report, or I'm editing someone else's articles, or I'm managing an event, or I'm reaching out to new people to build the Outer Energy Network. So it's a really diverse array of different things. And I'm glad to also work with colleagues like Bridget and people at other programs and centers, because energy is so cross-functional. We get to work across the world and, with global business or with security and defense, or, it really does touch everything and allows me to work and meet new people across the world and highest and the lowest levels of their agencies as well. And if I'm looking at an intern or someone to work at the Atlantic Council, looking for entrepreneurship, someone who's open to new tasks and isn't afraid to take on something difficult. I'm looking for someone who's kind of nerdy. I want someone who's really going to be passionate about the specific thing that they're working on, whether it's in energy or it's in security or it's in Eurasia. You really have to care about the nitty gritty and care about the big picture, but also the nerdy nitty gritty stuff too. So that's what I would say. Thanks so much for your question.
Caddy, if I can ask you, what would you say are some common traits that you look for, or you look in HR, so if you hear from other programs and centers, what are they looking for in candidates to work at the Atlantic Council?
Sorry, I was on mute. So it's interesting because Bridget and Zach's response really hit on everything that we actually look for overarching. So adaptability, agility, definitely leadership skills, and it doesn't matter at what level of hire that we're hiring. It could be a program or project assistant all the way up until our VPs or director level positions. At the end of the day, at the Atlantic Council, what we're doing is we're fostering the next generation of global leaders, and leadership is the core essential attribute that we're looking for. Of course, we recognize that everyone will come to the council fully equipped and ready to take on the world, but that's the culture that we're trying to drive forward, where we're instilling that in all of our hires and in all of our employees. So definitely being able to understand that you're coming in as a change agent. The only thing in life is change. So we have to be able to adapt, adjust, acclimate, and be able to be drivers of that change in the right direction. So in partnering with hiring managers, that's a part of the discussion that I typically have, is essentially, what are you looking for? And then as we're interviewing candidates, are you finding these attributes? And if not, then maybe we need to go ahead and look again. But essentially, what we're looking for is leaders.
Great, thanks. Adrian, I'm gonna turn to you. You shared a little bit about how you got your start at the council. Could you tell us a little bit more about, a day in the life of Adrian? And yeah, when you're interviewing candidates, what are you looking for?
So the primary responsibility that I have is programmatic work. So whenever you see an event, whenever you see some kind of publication coming out and we're running an event around it, or any kind of publicity work around that, that's primarily my job. That's primarily the job of my team. So that if nothing's going on in the world, which is rare, that's our primary responsibility. But if there's news happening, then it's our responsibility to figure out how we can respond quickly to coordinate any kind of expert reaction pieces or something like that. I also work on our congressional contacts. So the Eurasia Congressional Fellowship Program is part of my responsibility. We do research related to all different kinds of topics in the Eurasia space. So, and I even manage our website stuff. So I have a wide breadth of different things that I work on. I'm not personally in charge of hiring. I don't have any kind of hiring responsibility, but I do know what people look for, and it's primarily that that drive that you want to make a kind of impact in the world, that you want to that you feel like you have something to contribute, and that you have a unique perspective that is worth listening to. That's the primary thing that people want to see, and that you kind of bring a unique experience at the table that just isn't matched anywhere else.
Yeah. Thanks, Adrian. And so we're talking a little bit about the on-ramping to the Atlanta Council, and then what, a little bit of a taste of what the day-to-day looks like. I want to ask each of you about different initiatives that are different ways that people can get involved with Atlanta Council. So we have a number of different fellowships, for example. Zach mentioned Out in Energy, a network that he started. And so I think I'll start with you, Zach, because you mentioned the Out in Energy network, but there's also a few other fellowships within the Energy Center, with the Women Leaders in Energy Fellowship or the Veterans Advanced Energy Fellowship. Can you tell us a little bit about what those are, and how, if people are interested, how they can get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at the Global Energy Center, we recognize that the energy sector could be more diverse. It is currently about 17 to 20% women. And in that regard, we have a program that's ongoing now for 3 years called the Women Leaders in Energy Fellowship, which is designed to support and create an incubator and career development for young women leaders in energy. This year we have about 25 fellows, which is really exciting. It's our biggest class we've had since we began. It's really designed to provide them with career development skills and opportunities to write articles and other think pieces, and connect them with other women in energy so they can build their network of women leaders in this space. And then I help run our Veterans Advanced Energy Fellowship, which is directly targeting military veterans, reservists, and military spouses who are interested in advanced energy. Advanced energy meaning nuclear, renewables, batteries, the whole spectrum of climate and clean energy industries. Because again, veterans that come out of their service looking to transition, or they're separating from the military, they're looking for purpose, they're looking for a new job and looking for a new career. And oftentimes clean energy is that, that's fulfilling opportunity for a military veteran, with leadership drive, with a mission-driven opportunity, with purpose, with that team building opportunity. Currently, wind and solar actually are some of the highest proportionate job opportunities for veterans in the country, and it's sort of only going to continue to grow. So we're really trying to provide, now we have 10 military fellows or veteran fellows in our program, with connections to other military veterans in energy, as well as access to education, access to moderation and writing opportunities, access to career development skills like public speaking, really trying to also just build their network and helping people meet other people who are like them, creating visibility, incubating their worth, their value, their dignity in this space, and just helping to create more alignments there.
Yeah, I love, I believe you launched the fellowship a couple of years ago or so. I'm super excited to learn about that. As an Army brat, it's very special for me to be able to the Atlanta Council to have some programming for veterans. So yeah, I love that you all are doing that. The Global Energy Center is taking the lead on all that. Adrian, I'm going to turn to you. I would love to hear more about, you mentioned it briefly, the Eurasia Congressional Fellowship. That's been going on for several years now. It's been one of our most successful fellowships that we've had. Just a little bit more about that.
So that started back in 2018. I think Geisha Gonzalez started the program, and her idea was to try to increase visibility for Ukraine in Capitol Hill and in the foreign policy community that works on the legislative side of things. And it's a 1 year long thing. No one gets paid. It is non-residential and it is nonpartisan. And the whole idea is to connect members from the House staff and Senate, the relevant committees, with the Atlantic Council Fellows and other leading experts. We want to discuss with them issues such as US-Ukraine relations, US-Russia relations, Russia's foreign policy and Kremlin influence operations, and a whole host of other topics. We have a full list on our website of things. And the whole idea at the end, which has been disrupted by the pandemic, was to do a week-long study trip to Ukraine where they get to meet with counterparts from the Ukrainian government, from the Verkhovna Rada, and a couple of other civil society organizations and leaders and think tank groups there, just to get increased exposure and showcase Ukraine as a bright spot in the post-Soviet space, and showcase Ukraine's increasing drive towards a more Europe-focused foreign policy and domestic policy. That is the primary goal for our fellowship and the trip.
That's great. And just very briefly, I mentioned this earlier about our LGBTI fellowship that we launched a couple of years ago. About 25 fellows from around the world that we engage, mid-career professionals. It's a series of workshops, leadership development workshops, of foreign policy master classes. And it's a great way to also meet with just other leaders who have been at the forefront of the intersection of LGBTI affairs and foreign affairs. Sometimes we have special master classes just with leaders that have shared their experiences, that have been paving the way for us to follow in their footsteps. And then so one other great initiative that we launched just this January is our, we relaunched our internship program to where it is paid, and it's a more intentional professional development program for that next generation of leaders. Caddy, if I can turn to you to tell us a little bit more about that program and how people can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Vicente, just like you stated, the council, we really recognize that a part of the socioeconomic challenges that plagues the US, it implicates and it presents itself within the organizations that are a part of our capitalistic society. So one of the avenues that we really recognize that we could really focus in on is our internship program. So previously our internship program was unpaid, and now we've transitioned to it being paid. But not only just that, we've really revamped the entire program so that way it's all encompassing, all inclusive of not just diversity factors as a part of our recruitment process, but also our training and learning curriculum that's embedded as a part of the overall overarching programmatic structure. So we have masterclass series, we have newly updated training offerings for all of our interns. And yes, we no longer call our interns, we call them young global professionals. So they're embedded as an essential part of our 14 programs and centers. We recognize that we are just not doing the work of today, but we're setting the stage for tomorrow. And in doing so, we have to incorporate the trainings necessary in order to ensure that our future is secure tomorrow. So with that, we really focused in on revamping our entire program. And in all totality, like when you really think about it, about 33% of our YGPs now convert over to FTE, so full-time employment. So that's a huge percentage when you really think about it. So we're really investing in our future by doing what we need to do today. And with our YGP program, we're using this as an example for our total talent strategy as we move forward to incorporate certain elements into the build out of our internal teams overarching. So it is something that is new. We are in our second cohort group. So we had our YGPs for our spring cohort, and then now for our summer cohort, and we are in the planning phases for our fall cohort. So we're looking to have those application dates. I think we're looking to have that scheduled out for next week. So everyone, please look to our website because our YGP application dates and procedures will be outlined on our website. So tell your friends, tell your family members, students, military individuals to apply because we are ready and we're super excited about continuing this trajectory of growth within the YGP.
Great, thank you. So we do have a question about senior fellows, non-resident senior fellows. You know, what do they do? Where should they be in their careers? So first of all, I'll turn to Zach because I know Zach, you work very closely with a lot of the different senior fellows. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about those questions. Then I might turn to Caddy to see if she has anything to add from an HR perspective.
Yeah, it's a good question. So as sort of the editorial assistant, I work very closely with a lot of our senior fellows, both on their publications, but also I'm working with them on speaking engagements for our events. A senior fellow, at least at the Global Energy Center, tends to be a mid to an upper level career professional who has decades or long-standing career development in energy or climate that has a specific area of expertise that is a value add to our center, whether that's focusing on defense or the Arctic or nuclear energy or advanced energy, or they're maybe an energy journalist. We really take from a range of different professions and specialties. Energy justice, for example, we just brought on someone specifically focusing on environmental and energy justice and thinking about those things as growing important topics in clean energy today and also in legacy energy. We also have just fellows. So we have senior fellows and fellows. Fellows tend to be younger, juniors. So there are other also opportunities for fellows who are younger, growing, rising professionals also to be part of the Atlantic Council team.
Yeah.
Caddy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was about to say, Zach really laid it out. Our fellows are essential to our work, and really it's about the partnership there. So we are built off of our YGPs, our core consultants, our employee base, as well as our fellows. So definitely our fellows come with a certain subject matter expertise, and we lean on them for a lot of our work and collaboration in the workspaces that we're in. So we do have our fellow positions posted on our website, those that we're advertising for. And then of course we keep our website updated with any opportunity specific to fellows, as well as what it looks like to be a fellow of the Atlantic Council. So as far as inquiries, if ever there's an inquiry, definitely reach out to hr@atlanticcouncil.org, and we'll be able to really explain in detail what our opportunities are, if any, at the time, specifically for our fellows.
Got it. Thanks so much, Caddy. So just to, I think we're coming towards the hour. So just for final comments, I'd love to go around and just hear from each of you. What's a really important takeaway that you want folks to hear to leave this event knowing, whether it be about the Atlantic Council, about the foreign policy space, being out at the Atlantic Council. What's the most important takeaway that you want people to have from today's conversation? And Adrian, I think I'll start with you first.
I would say don't accept a place that doesn't accept who you are. So don't work for somebody who doesn't respect you and who you are. Don't settle for something less than you think you are worth. So make sure that you feel welcome where you work. Make sure that you can bring yourself to the table and find that special space. And if you don't have that, and if you feel like you want to stay where you are, and because you really support the mission, but you don't think that there's enough representation, that there's enough support, make that support. Be the supports person. Somebody has to be the first. So blaze the path forward if no one else has yet.
Bridget.
Yeah, I think I'm going to touch on something similar, but more from what I would like to see from the institutional side, which would be there are so many people out there that are passionate, that are excited about being in this space, that want to, put in hard work to impact the national security community. So just making it a more inclusive environment and making it a place that they want to be, and making it a place that they feel comfortable coming to every day, I think is so important. And not only is it going to benefit them and your employees, but it's going to benefit the organization as a whole, because as we've seen, diversity and differences of perspectives not only, you know, is a good thing to have in general, but it is something that really makes the work better and does just bring about a better, bigger, more global perspective. So I think doing anything you can to break those barriers down, whether you're an individual within the organization or whether you're someone up who can make that change in an organization, just being able to make it a more inclusive and more welcoming place.
Zach.
Thanks so much for your question. I would say that if you are a member of the LGBTQI plus community, you should know that you belong, that you are equal, that you deserve just as much as anyone else does. You deserve to thrive professionally and personally, and that nothing should tell you. You should never tell yourself differently. No one should be able to tell you differently. And if you are at a workplace, you should assert yourself. You shouldn't be humble, but assert yourself. Never think that you are lesser or you don't deserve as much as anyone else does, and just seek the allies out. So if there's people in your environment, look for those mentors. And if you don't have a mentor, be one for somebody else. Just like Adrienne said, blaze the trail. There's someone always has to be first. So either find and integrate yourself into a community of allyship and diversity, or create one.
Yeah, it's really important. Thanks, Zach. Caddy.
I love going after Zach because he says everything right. So, I would definitely just say to always use your voice. Sometimes this world tries to silence us, and it's not right. We all have a voice. No one gave it to us. It's ours. So use it. And definitely hold organizations accountable the same way we hold people in our personal lives accountable. Hold the organization that you work for accountable. So definitely, make sure to partner with your supervisors or allies within your organization to drive forward things that are right, things that are positive, and things that will push forward and drive forward a more inclusive environment. Representation matters. You matter. I matter. And if I'm hurt, that also should mean that you should be hurt in some kind of way. So understand what it means to be an ally, what that looks like. There's no one size fits all to allyship. So understanding the different means of communicating and partnering and integrating and acclimating. I think once you get a handle on all of those things, even though it may not happen all at the same time, you'll be fine. But definitely find your voice, use it, and hold everyone accountable to driving forward what's right in this world.
Thanks, Caddy. And those are awesome. Incredible words of wisdom from the four of you. And one question we received was about advice on just all the points that you're just making about how to acclimate within a organization and in a culture. And I think in a lot of ways it's being proactive. It's taking that initiative. Be the change that you want to see. And I love some of the points that you all read, Zach. The points of allies are so critically important. And I definitely seek those out, as much as you can, particularly to advance different initiatives that you're working on. And so with all that, thank you everyone for joining us today. Zach, Bridget, Caddy, Adrian, that's such a fun conversation. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. For more information on our work, on our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, our job board, we have lots of openings. Please check it out. Or even our Young Global Leaders Program. Check out our website. It's all listed there. And so we hope to see you in some of our events, virtual, remote, and hopefully hybrid and in person soon. And we'll see you hopefully at the next Meet the Council event too. So with that, thank you everyone. Until next time.